Hello, welcome to Common Sense Aligners. Today, as you see, if you're watching this episode, we're starting a new era in this podcast. Thanks to my colleague Álvaro Fernando Gutierrez, we're using images in this podcast. Maybe you're just listening us from the car. Well, it's okay. You can continue doing that. But if you want to have some images of myself talking, you can go join us in Spotify or any other channels of podcasts, and you will be able to see it. Also, if you join Common Sense Aligners training program, you will enjoy these and many other benefits from our team. Today, as you know, we're going to cover the last part of our technology approach. As you know, we've been talking about design and architecture of the dental office. If we want to change it from braces to clear aligners, how we have to do this? What are the changes we have to introduce? If you're opening a new office, what should you do to improve it, to make it efficient? We covered this before. We also talked about the distribution of the appointments. How can we integrate this into our CRM, into the software we're using in our clinic? We were also talking about software, the options we're having, advantages of relying on technology. This is quite important. It is not just about the digital treatment planning, but also technology is making our office more efficient. It's helping us having more patients, reminding our patients their appointments, and improving the communication we're having with them. But today, the topic is going to be slightly different. We're going to talk about hardware. If we're talking about hardware, sometimes we just think, okay, I need to buy a new computer for my office. But it is important that we understand that technology is nothing without software. And we have so many pieces in our offices, and we have to create a digital environment in which we're getting the most of digital orthodontics. Aligner orthodontics, we all know it's digital, and we have to take the most of it. So if we have to think of an ecosystem in our office, we have to consider a couple of things. The connectivity in between all the hardware appliances we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about, obviously, intraoral scanners. Maybe 1 decade ago, there was just a few of us who had intraoral scanners in our offices. But today, it's the most of us enjoying this feature in our offices. We also have cameras for taking pictures and registering the evolution of our treatments. They have to be connectable. We have to be able to share documents in between these two. We also need computers, and we need CBCT or lateral or panoramic X-rays integration. Okay, so the connectivity is really important. Sometimes I see some colleagues, we all pay attention to resolution. Okay, so we think it is quite important that I have this great resolution with my new CBCT machine. I know it is important because we want to pay attention to the details. But sometimes, if we have to spend maybe like 10 minutes looking at an impacted canine because of the resolution, that it is perfect, it is really high, but we cannot integrate it with the digital treatment plan. For example, if you're doing some in-house aligners, that is not going to be useful. In the end, we're going to forget using it because it's not going to be efficient. And for this, I want to put a lot of stress today in the fact that we need connectivity. For this, we have like big orthodontic companies, such as Invisalign, for example. They're providing us with a full ecosystem. They're talking about integration of pictures with DSLR cameras or even iPads or smartphones. They're integrating CBCT already, and it's quite simple to insert a decom file into a digital treatment planning. And they are creating a whole environment that, even considering it might not be absolutely perfect, it's fast, it's quick, and it's convenient. And I would say In 98% of the cases, we just need to take a brief look at these aspects. We don't need perfection in every detail of the treatment, and this is why, to me, it is quite important to put stress on the connectivity of all the hardware devices we're having in our offices. So if we're talking about scanners, apart from the resolution, which is really important, apart from the connectivity, which to me is a key pillar in our dental office, we have to consider a few aspects that are coming. Maybe not today, but tomorrow they will be here. I'm talking about artificial intelligence and the integration. We know, we see it today. If we use the picture of a patient, okay, and we take an intraoral scanner of their mouth, what do we see? We can see an integration. So if the patient is smiling, we can see the changes we have put into the intraoral scanner. So the patient is seeing the final result, and this is guiding me to a better diagnosis and a better treatment planning. So it is quite important that we consider that maybe the cheapest, I know, we all tend to make efficient investments in our offices. So we want technology to be cheaper. And we think, okay, maybe I'm going to use this really simple open technology. That is great in many cases, but we have to be a step ahead. And this is taking into consideration artificial intelligence, for example. But it's not just about communication with the patient or even analyzing the smile. In some of the cases, we have features, we have pieces of software like Mojo, which are really, really interesting. We can see the real arch closure of the patient, and we can make a dynamic diagnosis of the patient, not just static, but also dynamic. We can see the occlusion, how it is changing of the patient whenever they're opening or closing their mouth, and the posal banana. And this is quite interesting. We already have a few aligner systems, including this feature, the integration of this with the scanner, with the aligner system. So take a look at this. Don't just think of the price or the resolution of the scanner, because this is really important that we are one step ahead. We pay attention to artificial intelligence, and we pay attention to facts like the one that we can integrate Mojo, or we can see the real arch closure of the patient just within a couple of minutes, opening and closing the mouth. And this is really important, for example, in TMJ problems. So if we talk about scanners, intraoral scanners, let's say we have to think of connectivity, we have to think of resolution, but we also have to think of artificial intelligence, okay? This is quite important. And the integration of new features of the smile or the TMJ. Of the second point we're going to cover today. We know pictures are really important for us, and we usually tend to use DSLR cameras. They're really good, and the resolution is perfect. But we have to pay attention, once again, that even considering resolution has to be good, in some cases we can pay attention to the connectivity with the rest of the devices. It is quite convenient if we can upload pictures automatically from the camera to our computer, or even to the clear aligner provider we're having. This is going to save us tons of time in our office. And time is important because we can play a little slower. If we are slow and we are paying attention to details, the outcomes in our treatments are going to be much better. We know we don't have to hurry. Take it easy. And these kind of things, they're taking the stress out of us, and they're making it easy for our team, for ourselves, to pay attention to the most important thing we have in our offices, which is the patient. Okay? So the connectivity here is really, really important. For this, if your camera in some cases is not like really new, you don't have to buy like the most expensive camera you can find in the market. It is as easy as changing the memory cards you have into your camera. Some of them have Wi-Fi connections or Bluetooth connections, which allow you to upload the pictures automatically. If you don't know how to do this, just contact any software provider or hardware manager in your area, and they will be able to help you. I work with this approach, and it is much more efficient, especially if you have these connections in every room. I remember when I started practicing, we had this single camera for the whole office, and there were 6 dental chairs. And we were working and taking pictures, and we were, okay, may I have the camera? May I have the camera? And yeah, maybe we saved like a few thousand euros or dollars. But in the long term, saving this small amount of money took us like really long time. And we were also making mistakes because we were changing the camera from examination room to another examination room. And this was something not really efficient. And as long as we had a camera for every treatment room, yeah, there was an initial investment we had to make, but the final outcome of the pictures was much better because each person in each room was responsible for their own pictures. So there was no, oh, I don't know who made these pictures, because it was you, it was me, the one taking these pictures, and it was much more efficient for everyone. We were saving time. As I said before, it is really important that we rely on technology to save time and dedicate this time to more efficient things. So when we're talking about cameras, I put a lot of focus on connectivity, especially if it's wireless connectivity. And it doesn't have to be built into the camera, but we can build it just buying a new memory card. Also, in some cases, I know that some doctors prefer to use smartphones. It is okay. I always say the same. The quality of the picture is much more dependent on the attention we're paying to the picture itself than to the device. I mean, if I spend thousands of euros in buying a new camera and I don't know how to take a picture, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be much better if I have my smartphone and I wait to find the perfect angle. And if I change the light, this is quite important. So don't pay attention to the device because it's the simple thing. Pay attention to the technique you're using. The next piece of hardware we're going to think for our dental office are the machines we're using for x-rays. These are really important. And up to 10 years ago, we were all using 2D, two-dimension x-rays, lateral or panoramic x-rays. But today, there are a couple of things that have improved a lot. First of all, the cost of 3D technology is much cheaper than it was. And also, the radiation dose is much lower. So let's imagine I'm having your niece or your nephew in my office tomorrow, and they're like 10 years old, and they have maybe like a transversal problem. And I don't know if it's dental or skeletal. And it is clear evidence that with this 3D approach, I'm making a better diagnosis. It is great if I can analyze perfectly what's a transversal problem, and if it's a skeletal problem, I might go for a disjunction instead of dental expansion. And this is quite important. It is cheaper than it was. The radiation dose is much lower than it was. So we should all have 3D diagnosis machines in our clinics, because this is going to make a better treatment for our patients. And I think it's important. Don't pay much attention to the brand. Most of the machines today, doesn't matter if they're more or less complex, are providing a great diagnosis tool. And as I was saying before, an average one is usually helpful for like 95% of the cases. In the cases in which we need a really specific or detailed approach, we might send the patient to another, like a hospital, to have the CBCT. It is going to be much more efficient than having an average machine in our office with a great connectivity with the aligner system we're using. Remember, this was not possible 15 or 20 years ago with fixed appliances, with brackets and wires. But today it's a reality, and it's an advantage we're having with clear aligners. So pay attention to this and try to perform this 3D analysis. This is quite important. If we're thinking about CBCT, please think of simplicity. This is quite important. But still, just don't forget about it. 2D is not valid anymore in our offices. Last part of hardware we're going to cover today are 3D printers. 3D printers are important today because simple things like Michigan splints, we can print them directly with a perfect fitting in our patients. And this is saving time, and this is saving money for our office and for our patients, because we can have the device on the same day. And probably in 5 or 10 years' time, we will be able to print aligners directly in our offices. Today, at least for me, they are quite useful to printing guides, for example, for placing tats. You will see this in the advanced program of Common Sense Aligners. How we use 3D printers to print the guides and place the tats securely. You will feel much more comfortable doing this. So I strongly encourage anyone to have a 3D printer. This 3D printer should be connected to the intraoral scanner. As I was saying, connectivity is really important to make it simple, to make it flow, to print something for the patient's mouth. And you will see how we use this. Today it's not about printing devices. As I was saying, maybe just Michigan splints. We're not printing aligners yet because of the material stiffness and the material elasticity, but it is quite important that we start using this technology, because in 4 or 5 years' time, when we are printing aligners, we want to be one step ahead. We want to be used to printing things in our offices and using them to improve our patients' quality of life. So with this in mind, I would resume what we have talked today, saying that in regards to hardware, okay, intraoral scanners, they have to be one step ahead. We have to think of some extra integrations we can have in this. They have to have a great connectivity and a good resolution. If we're talking about cameras, please do not think about the most expensive camera, but on a really good one, maybe for every room you have in your office and you're doing orthodontic treatment, because this is going to make it more efficient. And think of wireless integration with your aligner system. If you think about X-rays, just definitely go to 3D. And if you're thinking about 3D printers, just a simple one, just to increase and take one step ahead in your learning curve, so you improve the technique of 3D printing, and you're ready to get to the near future with a full idea and great concepts of 3D printing. So thanks for your attention today. I hope you're interested in this topic. I strongly encourage you to review the 3 previous chapters on technology, architecture, design, software, and how we can integrate the new scheduling and the new appointment system in aligners instead of brackets and wires, so you have a clear view on how technology and digitalization can improve the service you're offering to your patients. I don't want to end up today without saying that there are like so many comments. We're having so many comments every week in our different social media channels asking us about the contents in our Common Sense Aligners program. I strongly encourage you to follow in any of our social media, in YouTube, in Spotify, on Instagram. Just follow Common Sense Aligners. You will enjoy many free contents we're delivering for you every week, and you will be able to understand what's in it in the program. These unique contents we have created for you to fully understand aligners from A to Z. You will enjoy this program we have made for you. So subscribe to our channels, join us in Common Sense Aligners in any social media.